Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the IBF Champions Report, as this will be the second edition of the Champions Report in 2024, as it's my bi-monthly report where I discuss all champions and title belts from 122 pounds all the way to heavyweight. This is the International Boxing Federation. That's the IBF. And this will be the report on those titles. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, we are going to get going here, and again, we take a look at all title belts and championships from title belts and champions from 122 pounds all the way to heavyweight. So let's start at 122 super bantamweight, and the reigning undefeated IBF and undisputed super bantamweight champion is Naoya Inoue, the Monster. He returns on next Monday, May 6th on ESPN Plus from Japan, as he's going to main event and defend the undisputed title against his WBC mandatory challenger and former two-division world champion Luis Nery. Big fight right here for Inoue. In my opinion, one of the tougher opponents on paper that he's faced, but he's so utterly good, it's hard to see a path to victory for Nery in this one. I definitely think he's a live underdog, but Inoue has been so dominant and beaten fighters that people thought had better chances than Nery, that it's hard to see Nery pulling this one out. But we'll see. You know, it's on Monday the 6th, early morning in Japan, and it's a good one for the undisputed super bantamweight championship of the world. Really looking forward to it. Can't wait to see it. Go check my breakdown video on this fight. I did pick Inoue by knockout, so make sure you go check that out. Now, by the next Champions Report, I'm hoping at the end of June, I'm hoping that if Inoue is victorious, we at least know which direction he wants to go in next and who he wants to face. So we'll see. 126 featherweight. The reigning champion there is Luis Alberto Lopez. Lopez, it's rumored, just read today that it's rumored that Lopez could be facing off against former 122-pound champion Angelo Leo in his next fight. That they're discussing for a showdown, I think in July, which would be big. Lopez just blew away his mandatory challenger, Raya Abe from Japan, and is now trying to, keep his winning streak alive and his title reign alive. And Angelo Leo, that makes for a really good matchup. So I'm hoping that fight gets finalized before the next Champions Report is on the schedule, and I believe that it will. Next, super featherweight, 130 pounds. The reigning undefeated champion there is Joe Cordina. Cordina is in his second reign as champion, and he is set to return on May 18th to make the second overall defense of his title when he takes on little-known UK fighter Anthony Kakachi. Cordina's coming in a sizable favorite. This is going to be on the Fury Usyk undercard, though. And, Cordina, a win here could lead to a unification bout, or he's going to have to make a mandatory against Eduardo Nunez. We did hear Cordina come out and say that if he cannot get a unification bout next, that he might vacate the title. I think that's a ploy to avoid a showdown with Nunez, who just knocked out Shavkat Rakhimov. So we'll see what happens, but Cordina and Kakachi on May 18th. I'm picking Cordina in this one. I think he's going to stop Kakachi in the middle to late rounds and get a good statement win on the Fury Usyk pay-per-view undercard. 135 lightweight. The title is currently still vacant, and May 11th, the belt's going to be decided when former three-division world champion and two-time Olympic gold medalist Vasily Lomachenko battles former unified lightweight champ George Kambosos Jr. Big matchup right here for both men. It's taking place in Australia on May 11th, and the winner really can call some shots, because we know we got Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson, and Emmanuel Navarrete and Dennis Berinchyk are going to decide the WBO title a week later. But if Loma or Kambosos win this fight, it's going to be big because they'll grab a hold of a title belt and probably be looking to unify belts right away. I'm hoping if Loma defeats Kambosos as expected, which I picked him to win that fight, I would love to see Loma and Emmanuel Navarrete later in the year to unify belts if Navarrete gets by Dennis Berry in check. So we'll see what happens. Again, May 11th, I am picking Lomachenko to win this fight by a stoppage in the late rounds or a one-sided decision and become the IBF lightweight champion of the world again. 140, junior welterweight. The reigning champion there is Subriel Matias. Matias has his next fight good to go. June 15th, he is going to return in the main event of a DAZN card, and he will defend his title against undefeated Australian Liam Paro, who is no pushover. Paro went in against Montana Love, scored the knockout upset victory there, and is rolling and hungry, and Matias is also hungry. It's going to be a good clash right there. He does have a mandatory due after that one with Richardson Hitchens. So going to be interesting to see what happens on June 15th. I'm picking Matias, though, to beat Liam Paro by a knockout in the middle to later rounds and stay the world champion. But we'll see what happens again June 15th on DAZN. 147 welterweight. The reigning undefeated champion there is Jaron Boots Ennis. Boots is still looking to make the first defense of his title. And the purse bid for him and Cody Crowley in a mandatory defense was won by Matchroom, and it was won with well over a $3 million deal. Ennis gets 85% of that, so he's going to make over $3 million for that fight with Cody Crowley. They're trying to finalize the fight for the month of July, but they're still waiting to see if Cody Crowley is going to bail out of the fight or not. I'm hoping he doesn't. I think it's a good matchup, especially for Boots in his first title defense, and I'm looking forward to it. But whoever it is, I think Boots' next fight will be finalized by the next Champions Report, and we'll know who he's going to fight and when he's going to fight. 154 super welterweight. Bakram Murtazalayev is the newly crowned champion. He captured the vacant title when he stopped Jack Holke, the veteran, in the late rounds to become the new world champion, the belt that Charlo vacated last year. We haven't heard anything since the victory on who he's going to fight next. It seems like all the big names are busy and scheduling themselves for fights. I think Murtazalayev, what he should do is, I don't know if the IBF's going to follow through with some of the IBF sometimes, when a vacant title gets decided, they force the winner of the vacant title fight to make another mandatory. Right now, the highest available contender is Erickson Lubin. And then Tim Tszyu is following him, but Tim Tszyu is fighting Virgil Ortiz in August. So the next guy after that is Jesus Ramos, which would make for a rematch to determine a mandatory challenger. But I also think this is a good way for Erickson Lubin to get a shot at a title right here against Murtazalayev. So I really think the IBF will try to push that fight potentially. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Murtazalayev waits around and signs on to fight Sebastian Fundora later in the year, or if Errol Spence somehow swings in to go after Murtazalayev before he takes on the bigger name guys. So it's going to be interesting to see because 154 is really hot right now. A lot of guys moving into that division, setting up big fights with each other. But they're going to want to they're going to want to unify belts. And Sebastian Fundora already has the WBO and WBC. Terrence Crawford wants to claim the WBA belt against Madrimov. And he's also trying to become the WBO interim champ so he can get a direct shot in unification bout with what's his name, Fundora. So I don't think if Terrence Crawford gobbles up all the belts, say, or whoever comes out of that, I don't think they're going to want to fight a guy like Murtazalayev. So I think another big name is probably going to step in, or bigger name, and try to go after Murtazalayev, which is going to lead to a big fight for him. So it's going to be interesting to see. Excuse me. I hope we hear some news by the next Champions Report at the end of June on what's going to happen with Bakran Murtazalayev in his first title defense. 160 middleweight, the reigning and undefeated and unified champion is Janibek Alamanhalai, Kazakh style. He holds the IBF and the WBO middleweight titles, and there has been no news on what Janibek is doing next, sadly. I really want to see Janibek get in there and defend his title against somebody, but nobody seems to want to fight him right now. I do know that Hamza Shiraz is fighting Austin Ammo Williams next on the 5 versus 5 Dimitri Bivol Arthur Beterbiev undercard on pay-per-view on June 1st. If Shiraz wins that fight, he's already the WBO's #1 ranked contender. He might get the crack at Janibek. But is Janibek going to defend his title prior to that? I'm hoping the IBF orders a mandatory shot, orders a mandatory fight, or somebody steps up to the plate so Janibek can at least stay busy and everything ahead of a potential showdown with Shiraz, which likely might not come until September, October, but I think Janibek might just wait around for that big-time fight instead of, taking on somebody else. But I really do hope we hear some kind of news by the next Champions Report on what Janibek is doing next. 168 super middleweight. The reigning IBF and undisputed super middleweight champion of the world is Canelo Alvarez. Canelo is returning this Saturday, May 4th, when he defends all 4 of his belts against his WBO mandatory challenger, undefeated former junior middleweight champion Jaime Munguia, also of Mexico. All Mexican showdown here on Cinco de Mayo weekend. Big time fight right here for the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world. I did a breakdown video on this fight. Go check it out. I did pick Canelo to win this fight by a late stoppage or a decision to retain his undisputed title. And hopefully, if he's victorious, we know by the next Champions Report who his opponent is going to be for September on Mexican Independence Day weekend. We've been hearing some rumors that it could be Charlo, it could be Edgar Berlanga, but we'll see what happens. He's got to get through this fight first on May 4th against Jaime Munguia. 175 light heavyweight. The reigning IBF and undefeated and unified light heavyweight champion is Arthur Beterbiev. Beterbiev finally is going to get the much anticipated showdown June 1st. He will attempt to unify all 4 belts when he battles the undefeated WBA champion Dimitri Bivol. Big time fight right here that's going to headline a pay-per-view card. It's got a stacked ass undercard. This is a great fight to determine an undisputed champion. I really can't wait to see it. I have not yet done my breakdown video, so you're going to have to wait for my prediction then. But I'm hoping by the next Champions Report, whomever the winner is, we know some kind of direction that they might be going in. So we'll see what happens, but a huge showdown here on June 1st on pay-per-view for the undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world. Next, 200 pounds cruiserweight. The title is still currently vacant, but it's going to be decided on Saturday, May 18th, when undefeated former champion Jai Opetaia battles former 3-time cruiserweight world champion Maris Bradis. This is a rematch from their 2022 bout where Opetaia dominated and took a clean unanimous decision over Maris Bradis. Bradis hasn't fought since that fight. He's 39 years old, but he has a mandatory rematch by the IBF, and he is cashing in on it in this fight against the much younger, actually 11 years younger Opetaia, who is angry and pissed off about being stripped of the title to begin with. So he has a point to prove. I did a breakdown video on this fight. Go check it out. I'm picking Opetaia in this one by a stoppage victory in the middle to later rounds, more likely the later rounds, or another one-sided decision, but even more convincing this time. But I do believe Bradis is a live underdog. He's a game veteran. He was a top guy in the division for a number of years there, and we'll see what happens in this rematch Saturday, May 18th on the Fury and Usyk pay-per-view undercard. And finally, at heavyweight, the reigning IBF and unified heavyweight champion of the world is Alexander Usyk. Usyk, the undefeated champion, is set to return on Saturday, May 18th in the biggest fight of his career where he will attempt to unify all 4 belts and become the first undisputed champion of the 4-belt era in the heavyweight division, and the first undisputed champion in 25 years when he takes on undefeated WBC champion Tyson Fury. Big time showdown right here, close to a 50-50 matchup. I did a breakdown video on this fight already, so I can give you my prediction now. I picked Tyson Fury to win the IBF and undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, but by the next Champions Report, I do not believe Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk is going to be the IBF champion, because the IBF came out earlier in the year and stated that if the winner of this fight does not plan to fight Filip Hrgović next, the undefeated and longtime mandatory challenger, then they will be stripped and Hrgović will get to fight for the vacant title. And it's likely that the vacant title is going to go on the line for Hrgović on the June 1st card on pay-per-view in the 5 versus 5 tournament, when he battles Daniel Dubois, the former secondary champion. So a lot of moving pieces in the heavyweight division here. I really believe if either Tyson Fury or Usyk wins, they're either going to rematch each other or the winner's going to fight Anthony Joshua. So I really don't believe the winner is going to intend to fight Filip Hrgović, which is going to mean that the title will go vacant and Hrgović will fight Daniel Dubois on June 1st. Now, I haven't yet done a breakdown video on that fight, so you're going to have to wait to see who I think is going to be the IBF champion by the next Champions Report at the end of June. We will update you. But that's it. That's what I got. A lot going on in the IBF. You know, a lot of titles on the line. Super Bantamweight Championship on May 6th, Inoue versus Neri for the undisputed Super Bantamweight title. Super Featherweight Championship at 130 pounds on the line May 18th on DAZN pay-per-view. Joe Cordina and Anthony Cacace. Lightweight Championship on the line. The vacant title will be decided on May 11th on ESPN Plus. Lomachenko versus Kambosos. The Junior Welterweight Championship at 140 will be on the line Saturday, June 15th. Main event of a DAZN card, Matias versus Paro. Then you have the Super Middleweight Championship at 168 pounds will be decided this Saturday, May 4th on DAZN and Amazon pay-per-view. Canelo Alvarez versus Jaime Munguia. The Light Heavyweight Championship will be on the line June 1st on pay-per-view when Artur Beterbiev battles Dimitri Bivol to unify all 4 belts for the undisputed Light Heavyweight Championship of the world. The Cruiserweight Championship will be on the line Saturday, May 18th on the DAZN pay-per-view undercard when Jaio Pitaya battles Maris Bradis for the vacant belt in a rematch. And then the Heavyweight Championship will also be on the line Saturday, May 18th in the main event of that same pay-per-view card when reigning undefeated champion Alexander Usyk battles undefeated WBC champion Tyson Fury to unify all 4 heavyweight championships of the world. And you might also be seeing the vacant IBF title decided on Saturday, June 1st on pay-per-view when Hrgović battles Dubois. So a lot of action in the IBF. That is the IBF Champions Report, the second edition of 2024. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.